Hello and welcome to Let's Challenge. This week I'm playing Super Castlevania 4 and I'm starting a new challenge that I'm going to do one stage a week of. And the challenge here is actually to play the game with only the leather whip. So I'm going to avoid candles because I can't get sub-weapons or whip upgrades, the chain whip. So yeah, leather whip only is the challenge here. I've tried this once before on my own, but I never made it, I think, past stage 2. So I'm going to try it now on the show, one stage at a time for each week. And this first stage shouldn't be a problem, but I'm a little worried about the second one. And then definitely later stages. I think this second one isn't as hard as I think it is, but that is as far as I made it when I tried this on my own before. And I've never seen anyone else try this challenge, so I don't know what I'm really getting into, at least for the later part of the game. Anyways, I thought I might actually talk about sub-weapons a bit, even though I can't use them for this. And I guess I would start off with my favorite sub-weapon being the cross, just because of how useful it is. Especially in Super Castlevania 4, it's about the only sub-weapon I'd ever use when I play through it, because it's just extremely effective on bosses. And even if I wouldn't use it before the boss very much, I'd still just keep it, just because it's so extremely effective against bosses. And I think interesting thing about the cross is how it behaves like a boomerang, and that gives you some unique ways to hit enemies that are farther away. You can, at least with if you try to hit an enemy directly in front of you, you could get 2 hits or more in. So that's cool, but you can also, what makes it interesting is it also gives you the option to hit enemies that are even farther away. If you face away from the enemy, then throw the boomerang, then when it's coming back to you, you can just jump over it, and then as it goes back, it will, go and hit the enemies, because once it's going, starts going backwards, it doesn't stop until it goes really off screen. So that actually gives you more range, and I always thought that was an interesting thing with the boomerang, that you can actually hit enemies that are farther away if you can manage to avoid it and jump over it. And I actually don't want to whip up there, because there's that candle right above me would give me like a whip upgrade, I think, and I'm trying to avoid those, so I had to take that enemy a little differently than how I would have normally done that. And let's go ahead and talk about other sub-weapons then. That's enough about the cross, I guess. My other favorites would just be the axe, because I think the axe is really effective too, and it's also interesting. It gives you more interesting ways to approach different enemies with its cove arc above you. It's also used for hitting guys below you, above you. It gives you lots of more options. It's always neat. So I guess the cross and the whip, and the axe, I think are the most interesting ones, just because of the more ways, gives you more ways to play and stuff. And after that, the holy weapon, the holy water, is interesting, because it's like a bomb kind of, but it just sits there and will hit enemies that walk into it. Mainly the holy water is really good in Castlevania 1, and I would keep it for most of the game just because of how effective it is against death and against Dracula. It has some uses. So I'd rely on that mostly in the first game. And then when you get to the second one, well, you have some completely different sub-weapons. You kind of just buy them and have them with you all the time. It works very differently. But the laws, I can't really say that, but they would make you invincible. And that's one of the interesting ones in that game. It's only in that game, I think. And then after that, Castlevania 3 is when I think the axe is useful. That's when I would use that one. Also, you got other characters that have their own sub-weapons, which brings up a point in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. They introduced, that's when they introduced, I think, the most new sub-weapons to the game, because they, you get to play as Alucard, so to make him different from the Belmonts, they gave him a whole assortment of new sub-weapons. I mean, there's some staples, like you still get the clock, and the clock is really useful there since it can actually pause the doppelganger boss and kill him with the clock. And well, I guess I've run out of time to talk about stuff. I'm not used to these videos being this short. I could go on about some weapons. Maybe I'll go on a bit more next week. because that's the end of stage 1, and that's how I'm planning to do for this, is because I think I'm going to need more time for later stages. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. I'll be doing a Leather Whip only challenge some more next week with stage 2. I think it'll take a bit longer because I think Medusa will be tough with the Leather Whip only. So thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.